And welcome back. For our third and final conversation this morning, we have been joined by April Alvarez. She's the representative of Compliance U International Limited. Many of you guys are wondering, what is Compliance U? You'll hear all about it shortly. Good morning.
Good morning.
Ms. Alvarez.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for the introduction. So basically, Compliance U is a local company in Belize, which offers more or less what we will talk about. They offer services in the aspect of compliance. You may wonder, what is compliance? So compliance is basically meeting requirements, whether it's legal requirements, business requirements, operational requirements. And Compliance U focuses more on the legal requirements and meeting those across a wide section of different legislation, particularly the Money Laundering Terrorism Prevention Act, right? And so we've seen over the years, especially the past decade, where Belize has been assessed twice under the Financial Action Task Force International legal requirements. And we've seen where Belize have undergone this assessment. We've done the previous assessment to the 2023 assessment, which was conducted in last year. We had some challenges coming out of that assessment, and we've seen where Belize had to enhance certain requirements across certain big business sectors. I'm sure some of you would have come across those, particularly in the banking field, where all of a sudden people were required to present IDs, present some document to verify their address, certain things like that, asking certain questions to gain an understanding of that person.
It's interesting because AML seemed to become a thing fairly recently, right? In the financial sector particularly. Where, as you mentioned, gone are the days when we could have done certain transactions without necessarily thinking or believing that we needed to corroborate it with certain documents and what have you. But with the whole issue of anti-money laundering, now every transaction requires certain proof or certain documents.
Due diligence,
it's part of the due diligence process. How do you find that in terms of perhaps persons who want to establish a business, for instance, but they need to be able to fall in line with what the regulations are from a legal perspective?
Well, we have to understand that the dynamics had changed previous to this decade and decades before, coming off where we saw an increase in human activities, particularly in the financial crime area. And so the requirement came about due to that heavily. Most people will associate money laundering only with or mostly with the act of drug trafficking. However, it spans beyond that. There are other financial crimes that people commit, which is predicate, which precedes to become an act of money laundering. And so we could see where the requirement is, you know, the old saying that says the good must suffer for the bad. And in order to establish some type of trust, we've moved into the era, and we're now living in the era where you must provide some solid documented proof of that, right? You mentioned due diligence, and that is the core work of what Compliance U is about. So just to give a background of more or less what due diligence is. Due diligence is basically establishing the true identity and the authentication of the person or persons you're doing business with, whether it's a natural person or it's a legal entity.
You know what I've observed? There's usually a compliance unit or a compliance department, obviously in financial institutions, but also in other areas of business too. For instance, insurance. Could we talk about what would be the reasoning of having a compliance department or a compliance representative in an area like insurance?
Sure. And it's not only the financial sector, we will get into the part for insurance, but they've required, and it's a legal requirement, it's both international and local requirement, where we must establish a unit or a representative or an in-house particular person who deals particularly with compliance. You would wonder why the financial sector. It's not only there, it's spread across to the non-financial sector, where it includes professionals such as attorneys and accountants. The insurance industry falls under the financial sector. Like for that sector, you'd say For example, let me give an example. What could happen under the money laundering? What an instance of that could happen? You have an insurance for a home, and you don't know how that person acquired that property. We know that proceeds of crime come in large amounts, right? And so a lot of times criminals invest their proceeds from these crimes into
real
actual
estate.
assets.
Yeah.
So you insuring that particular asset, whether it's a home or a vehicle, you're insuring a proceed of crime. And that particular asset is basically tainted because it's a proceed of crime.
Right.
And that is why they need to
But then by
establish.
doing so, in essence, you're seeking to legitimize it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, right, and it comes. You spoke about that's part of one of the stage of money laundering, which is legitimizing your proceeds, you know, via assets or whatever type of business activities people endeavor on.
So let's look into other areas then of where compliance is important that is not considered financial institutions.
Okay, international standards and local standards as well has established that there other sectors within and functioning within society that can be victims or they wouldn't even know part of money laundering regimes, right? And those are considered designated non-financial businesses and professionals. Some examples would include auditors, accountants, attorneys.
Speak to attorneys specifically, if you don't mind.
Well, on the basis of attorneys, they're involved in a lot of cases. They know the law, but we know that not everybody is 100% straightforward or has high integrity. There are some people that may be rogue, or in another aspect, you can see the reason why they would be classified is they will be able to recognize such activities, right, based on their expertise, right?
So essentially, the role of Compliance U International Limited, let's talk about that. For maybe establishments that have not set up a compliance unit or have a compliance representative, can they seek out this service from Compliance U International Limited?
Right. So Compliance U International Limited offers their core basis on due diligence, that is establishing the identity of persons or legal entities that you're doing business with.
Right.
Yes, that is their reason. So they use resources, local resources as well as international resources to establish people's background information that you're Miss Sabrina Daly, I am Miss April Alvarez, and I am from this said country and I am from this said background. And that my history or my record is clean, I've been fair, I've been honest and integrity. Or, for example, if you do a world check and you put in such a famous name like Mr. Osama bin Laden, and that's just an example, you'll find that it will give us a lot of background information about his activities in terrorism particularly, right? So basically, Compliance U establishes that person's background and give you that solid documented proof that this is the person and this is the history of that person, or this is what the person basically
In essence, what it does is pretty much establishes your credibility as an individual.
Right, exactly.
And it's so important for a business, whether financial or otherwise, to establish some form of compliance or due diligence, because it not only protects the business, but the individual doing business with that person as well. Is that fair to say?
Right, yes. So in doing any type of due diligence checks, it has a benefit to you as a business to do it. And it's not only one benefit, it stems across, I have classified 4 benefits, right? You get to meet your legal requirements. You get to understand the person or legal entities you are establishing or endeavoring on doing business with, whether it's a customer, whether it's a business partner, you're going into partnership with anybody, whether it's a vendor that you're making a purchase from. And you can also conduct due diligence on your employees before hiring them, looking into their background. And so Compliance U brings this about, being able to have them do that work for you on a professional level and present that to you.
Excellent. Well, for anyone listening in and they're interested in accessing the services from Compliance U International Limited, how can they do that?
Okay, so Compliance U has an established website. and the website offers a suite of their products and services that they offer. You go on the website, it is so friendly, you can go in there, click on whatever services you may need, and you can also find the contact information such as email address, different phone numbers, and there's also a link to send directly to them any queries you may have, right? And seeking any particular services that is offered out there.
All right, well, Ms. Alvarez, do you have any final words, anything else that you have missed that you would like to mention?
I would just like to say, let's get into the culture easily, complying with legal requirements as well as international requirements. It sets an easier tone for Belize as a country, and it helps these industries more productive going forward. It's an easier flow for them, making everything easier for Belize as a country and a whole. It's easier to move in that way.
All right. Well, thank you so much for stopping by and sharing the importance of compliance and also how persons can access the services of Compliance U. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us as well.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take our final break, and when we come back, we wrap things up.